Welcome to Rollinstoned, your source for all things disability-friendly within the medical cannabis community. I'm your host, Alice Deal, and today's 10th episode, oh my gosh, I can hardly believe that it's been 10 episodes, 2 more than originally planned. So, today's episode is special because a friend of ours who works with one of our favorite brands, Cali Hash LA, he loves our content so much that he found kind of like this ad on LinkedIn about this big sister who was looking out for her little sister and was wondering if there was any outlets for people with disabilities in cannabis. Oh boy, did they ever find something with Rollinstoned, and I instantly found this infamous little sister, and her name is Kelsey. So without further ado, Kelsey, please introduce yourself.
My name is Kelsey. I am actually a floral designer and I write a blog, but I'm a cannabis user and have been for quite some time now.
What's your disability?
I am a paraplegic. I do not have a injury level, though. I never got one. I was disabled after receiving treatment for cancer. I went through 2.5 years of chemotherapy, and then the last spinal cord injection that I had, we did it, and then 2 weeks later, I basically fell to the floor and couldn't stand back up, and haven't gotten much of an explanation really ever since then.
Wow. I'm hearing it for the first time, so I didn't know that your backstory. One of my mentors, when I was a kid, it was the same thing, and she became disabled after a cancer surgery. And when did that take place?
It happened in 2000. Well, no, I'm sorry, no, I was diagnosed in 2000. It actually happened in 2012.
Okay, 2012.
Yeah. Okay. I was diagnosed when I was 10 in 2000. And 2002, when I was 12 years old, that's when paralysis happened.
Okay, so you were diagnosed with cancer in 2002, and 2012 is when the paralysis happened.
No, I was diagnosed in 2000 when I was 12.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay, we got it now. We got it.
Yeah.
So you're relatively young when all this was taking place. When did cannabis enter your life?
So cannabis actually didn't enter my life until I was 18 years old. And at that time, it was something that I did strictly recreationally, that I was trying as a recreational purpose. But really within the first couple times of using it, I realized how much it really helped my body, and the differences it was making in just living life, and just being able to get like from point A to point B without feeling all the many things that are felt, throughout the day. So it was, it very, very quickly became something that I used in my life. And as soon as I turned 18, I got my medical license and joined dispensaries.
Cannabis didn't come into my life until I was about 22, so relatively late. And I was like, what? As a person with cerebral palsy with a born disability, I was like, man, I wish I had all of this at my disposal. But it's you're also dealing with developing brain and all that. It's hard. It is hard, but I think the sooner the better. Once you get out of your late teens,
So I guess to go into my disability a little bit more, my disability is pretty much with movement. I still retain sensation, and with that, and I mean, I guess that may not have anything to do with it, but for me, my spasticity is really bad, so I have a lot of spastic spasms throughout the day, and they are strong to the point where like they'll push me back into my chair, and it causes a lot of pain just in my lower back throughout the entire day. And I've noticed that the cannabis definitely, it slows it down. It slows that spasm down so much that it's not like a hit to the gut, which is what it feels like every time. And then I think something that's like huge for me, and something that I've talked about with some of my friends that I definitely don't think is talked about enough, is just bladder management. I think a lot of able-bodied people and non-disabled people might not know that spinal cord injuries and illnesses are not just like a switch that's off and on. There's so many layers in between, and we all are so different that like these spasms and stuff affect our bladders, and that's a huge thing in getting through the day. Feeling like you're going to pee your pants all the time is not a cool feeling. So Yeah. So literally, that was the first thing I noticed with cannabis. That when I first used it, immediately that sensation went away until I actually needed to use the bathroom, and that was game changing for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. It does for me. I have cerebral palsy, and that it's different than a spinal cord injury, but not that different in a sense. I still deal with spasticity every day and bladder control issues, and I'm on medication for that reason. But I know when the medication is not what it used to be when I started having accidents, like, every day. But I'm really glad you're bringing this up because a lot of people with disabilities are ashamed of this issue, and it's nothing to be ashamed about. It's just, we work through it. We have medication, we have cannabis, and I think it's really awesome that you're open to talking about it.
Oh,
Yay!
I will talk about it all day.
Yeah, I love it.
It's so important. And I think part of not talking about it, and this goes into totally other different things about disability, but it's also like people choosing to use the only accessible stall. I don't think they recognize how urgent our bathroom needs are, and if people knew about it, maybe they'd say, oh, you know what, let me go into this open one that, because I don't need that extra space instead.
Yeah, like that happen a lot. Like, you encounter that a lot.
Yes, happens quite often. Almost every time I go to the bathroom, somebody's in there, and it's normal. But I also think that there's this idea that people just don't really understand our needs to the extent that they need to be understood.
Yeah, and that's why places like your blog and Rollinstoned exist, because we talk about the nitty gritty, and it's okay to talk about our bodies and just be open about it and be like, you know what, we have an extra need, and just be understanding, and because that's the thing about dynamic disability, it changes from one day to the next. So just because you had a good day yesterday doesn't mean it's going to be the same today. So always have peace, always have understanding, always be kind. So, would you like to medicate with me? So, what you smoking on
today? I've been actually smoking a lot of loud trees, and actually also a lot of, which one is this actually? This is talking trees, and this is animal mints. We just got this actually. I haven't tried it yet.
Ooh, talking trees.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I smoke. Like you, like I find a company, or I find a flavor that I really like, and I stick with it, because it's rare to find a company that'll hit the same every time. And that company for me right now is Big Trees.
Okay.
So we're both smoking on some trees today. I really like the infused blunt or joint. That is my wheelhouse. Okay. I like, some keef or some rosin with the flower. And it just looks like this. That's my wheelhouse. What about you? So you like flower?
Well, yeah, I mostly like flower. When I started with cannabis, I smoked joints and blunts, but eventually the paper kind of started to bother my throat. So I've gone to just strictly glass to kind of curb that.
Right. And I go back and forth as well.
Yeah.
I take breaks. I have my little spooky bong that I smoke out of.
Yeah, I've seen it. I like that.
So yeah, no, my wife is the one that takes these huge bong rips for their multiple sclerosis, and they have very tall glass bongs. Everything's just a personal preference.
I love a tall bong, but I will admit they're sometimes hard to use for me and my lung capacity.
That's mainly why I smoke these, is because it's my lung capacity.
I think a lot of people underestimate it.
It's just not something that they would ever imagine putting into their everyday routine, and before you know it, it's like, without it, we wouldn't have normal routines.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think too, like, if you smoke weed, you're this big stoner and all of this stuff. But it's like, you can use cannabis and not be high. You can. implement it in a way where you're not, like this like old movie idea of what cannabis is. I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like the movies portray it in a very different way than what it actually is. For sure.
Most of the time I'll tell my dad, like, I don't get high. And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I just feel like I can move my body and do stuff and have energy, but I don't feel stoned, just kind of relaxed and happy and hungry and all the things that we're missing, it provides.
Right. So I think that people don't understand how much pain and tension and all of these things even contribute to not wanting to eat, to not wanting to go out for a stroll, and there are things that you need for your body and for your mental health too.
Absolutely. And I think it's harder with COVID, like I got COVID in June and it was really hard on me, and it's hard to go out like we used to, and this kind of provides joy. Another thing that I like about you that this whole interview is kismet is you're a Disney fan.
Oh yeah.
Yes, as am I, as we all are, and you like Alice in Wonderland.
Alice, ever see an Alice with a blossom like that?
Come to think of it, did you ever see an Alice?
Yes. And did you notice her petals? What a peculiar colour.
And no fragrance.
Just look at those stems.
Rather scrawny, I'd say.
I think she's pretty.
Quiet, bud.
I'm not a flower.
Aha! Just as I suspected. She's nothing but a common mobile vulgaris.
Oh, no!
A common what?
To put it bluntly, a weed.
I'm not a weed.
Well, you wouldn't expect her to admit it, can you imagine? Well, goodness! Don't let her stay here and go to seed. Go on now, don't you take her?
So when I was a kid and when I was in the hospital, I watched that movie a lot. And for me, it was always because, like, there's something that spoke to me about, this girl that wanted a world that was all her own, and, like, it bent to her rules, not everybody else's. It works for her, and the name of my floristry company is Mobile Vulgaris, which is taken from that movie, and it's Latin, and in the movie, it's it's the scene where she's talking to the flowers in the garden, and they're asking her what, like, type of flower she is, and they go, or maybe you're a mobile vulgaris, and she goes, a what? And they say, put it bluntly, a weed. And it always just really spoke to me because it touched on for me how I felt like the world saw me. And, like, her response to them was like, if I was big enough, I would pick each and every one of you. Like, no, I'm not a weed. Like, how dare you? And so it always just, like, went over and over in my head because I was like, well, that's me. That's the world that I feel like I live in. And so when I grew up and started my own business and stuff, I thought that it was only right to kind of make that my almost mission statement, but not really a mission statement, but just like that is my vibe. So I'm trying to explain this correctly.
I think you're doing it pretty well. What's pretty magical about us meeting and that story. I had a friend who had a severe case of lupus who died in 2011, and one of her last cosplay days with her girls, which was me included, was an Alice in Wonderland photo shoot. And it was the same thing. She was trying to escape from her body and create her own rules, which she definitely had. And Carol, Lewis Carroll, the writer, was also disabled. And that's something that people fail to mention every time about Alice in Wonderland. They just think, oh, it's about drugs. Yes, you look at the mushrooms and everything going on there. It's a little nutty. But it's really about Carol escaping his body, as he had seizures, he had epilepsy, he dealt with stammering, he dealt with all kinds of issues, and probably in that time period, he probably stayed home and read too, if he was lucky.
Mm-hmm.
So, learning all this information now and rewatching Alice in Wonderland it's wild. It's a disability-centric story, and I'm so glad that you and I can talk about it, connect on it, because I think that's what makes Disney so special.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh yeah. I think, like, I don't know, there's this weird, I want to say, like, power that that movie in particular makes me feel. Like, you can make your own rules and you can do all of these things, and eventually, like, people will catch on and see, because even with Alice in Wonderland, everybody loves that movie, but like you said, nobody really understands where it's all coming from. So it's really cool the way that Disney can impact the world around us, and people don't even necessarily see it.
Oh yeah, and yeah, I think that there's some things that I wish that passes were less expensive than they are, but overall, Walt knew how to impact children, and there's nothing more sacred than the heart of a child. I hope that I'm 35, but I still think of myself as a big kid. I think it's important to keep that mentality for sure.
Yeah, it's funny. My husband and I went there yesterday, actually, and one of the first things we said, like, getting out of the car, was, what's so incredible about Disney is that it's the one place where disability is not a last thought. It's like a first thought. It's like, okay, how are we getting this in this ride first? We actually spoke to one of the ride operators at, it was actually at Big Thunder Mountain, and I guess when they were revamping the ride in 2014, they asked the ride operators what things they could do better, and the ride operators said more ADA accessibility. Like, that's what we need across the board. So now every car on that ride has ADA accessibility on it because they said that. And it's just really interesting, because you go other places and it's almost like they shame you if you try to get on one of their rides, and not there, But again, I agree with you about pricing. It's yeah,
it's rough, but that's why I have my movies and I have my memories, and I have a lot of memories, trust me. Mm-hmm. But so I think that's a great place to end it. So thank you so much for coming by. I hope that we can chat more, and maybe we can do a smoke session in person. That would be awesome.
That would be fun. I would love that.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we met, and thanks for coming by, dudes. We have no idea who the next guest is going to be, but be good, and you don't have to move to Groove. Bye, guys.